Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's live reading from Ramayana, the story of Lord Ram by His Holiness Bhaktivikas Swami. We are reading from the Uttara at the moment. So Lakshman has brought Sita Mata to somewhere nearby Valmiki's ashram at the orders of Lord Ram. And we continue from there. Meanwhile, Lakshman arrived at Ayodhya, wondering that what he would say. He entered the royal palace. Lakshman saw Ram seated upon the throne, shedding tears and lost in deep contemplation. Seeing his brother in pitiful condition, Lakshman's eyes also filled with tears. Bowing down before Lord Ram, Lakshman addressed him in a voice laden with great sorrow. My dear brother, in accordance with your order, I abandoned Sita on the banks of the Ganga near the ashram of great sage Valmiki. O Ram, there is no use giving way to grief. Indeed, in this world, meeting and separation are concomitant factors. It is inevitable that one's wife, one's son, and one's very life must one day be given up. Therefore, intelligent persons always pass through life's journey with the attitude of detachment. My dear brother, your unlimited prowess controls the three worlds. Why then do you not suppress this despondency? Cast off this weakness, otherwise more rumors will circulate. What will people think? Ram became pacified by Lakshman's words, and his grief gradually faded. My dear Lakshman, for the last 4 days I have completely neglected my royal duties, and in general, please summon all the royal ministers, priests, and people in general with whom you do business. The king who does not look daily at the state administration is certainly doomed to suffer in hell. You must know the story of King Nriga. He once gave away millions of cows in charity to a Brahmin, but one of them happened to belong to another Brahmin. When they discovered this discrepancy, the Brahmins cursed the king to become a lizard. It was ordained that the king Nriga would be delivered in the distant future when Lord Vishnu would appear as the son of Vasudeva in the line of Yadu. Even now that great king suffers because of the Brahmana's curse. Thus it can be understood just how much misery can be incurred due to a king's injustice. Therefore let all people come to me who seek my audience. My dear brother, if you wish, I can entertain you with other interesting histories regarding the lives of great kings. Lakshman replied, my dear Ram, the more I listen to these wonderful stories, the more I am eager to continue hearing. In response, Ram narrated the history of King Nimi. This 12th son of Ikshvaku once asked Vashisht to officiate at his sacrifice. However, because Vashisht was already engaged in performing a sacrifice on behalf of Indra, he requested Maharaj Nimi to wait. But instead of waiting, Maharaj Nimi appointed Gautam as his sacrificial priest. When Vashisht learned of this, he came to the king and cursed him to die. In retaliation, Maharaj Nimi cursed Vashisht to die, and thereafter they were both forced to relinquish their material bodies. Vashisht then approached Lord Rama, who advised him to enter the seaman about to be discharged by Mitra and Varuna. Vashisht quickly went to the shore of the ocean where Mitra and Varun were residing. Just at that time, the beautiful Apsara Urvashi came by. Becoming overwhelmed by lust, Varun pleaded with Urvashi to accept him, but Urvashi replied that Mitra was first to beg union with her. At this, Varun declared, O beautiful one, if you do not accept my embraces at once, I shall discharge my semen into this celestial pitcher. Being pleased by this statement of ardent love, Urvashi replied, "My dear Varun, although my body belongs to Mitra, my heart belongs to you." Mitra became extremely irritated at Urvashi's words and cursed the Apsara to pass some time on earth. As a result, the great sage Agastya arose from the vessel and said, "O Mitra, I am your only begotten son." Saying this, Agastya went away. Then after Varun discharged his semen into a pitcher and mixed it with the semen of Mitra. Thus from this mixture, Vashisht took birth. Meanwhile, after the death of Maharaj Nimi, the priests continued the sacrifice after preserving his body in oil. At the completion of the sacrifice, Bhrigu Muni utilized his mystic powers to invoke the soul of King Nimi. The demigods were very pleased with this act, and when they offered him benediction, Maharaj Nimi requested, "O celestials, may I always reside in the eyes of all creatures." The demigods gave their consent, saying, "O king, you shall visit every eye in the form of air. Because of this, all creatures will be seen to blink periodically." The demigods departed, and thereafter the priests began to churn the body of King Nimi. Thus Mithi was born. Since he was born from a dead body, he was known as Videha as well as Janak. So Mithi was born from the churned body of King Nimi, and he later came to be known as Videha as well as Janak because he was born from a dead body. After narrating this story, Ram hastened to the royal assembly, eager to attend to the duties of state administration. There Ram ordered Lakshman, "Go to the palace gate and bring me all those who have come with their petitions." Lakshman soon returned, saying, "O Lord, it appears that there is no one in the Kaushal kingdom who is in need of anything." Ram, however, insisted, "Go again and look more carefully. I do not wish to be accused of the slightest neglect, nor do I want the least bit of irreligion to go undetected in my kingdom." Going out again, Lakshman then noticed a dog sitting near the palace gate, its head bleeding. While staring at Lakshman, the dog whined mournfully. Lakshman asked, "What is wrong? Why have you come here? Please do not fear, for you may tell me everything." The dog replied, "I wish to speak directly to Lord Ram, whose lotus feet award one fearlessness and who is the shelter of the distressed." Lakshman then said, "If you have something to say, then you are welcome to speak to the king himself." However, the dog replied, "I am a very low-born creature. I am unworthy of entering temples, the houses of Brahmins, or the royal palaces. The king is the embodiment of all religious principles, the representations of all the demigods, and the benefactor of all living beings. Without Ram's special permission, I cannot dare come before him." When Lakshman reported the matter, Ram immediately commanded, "Whoever it may be, usher him in without delay." The dog then humbly came before Ram and said, "O Lord, the king is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus he is the savior of all creatures. While others sleep peacefully, the king remains alert, always working for the welfare of his subjects. However, since everything depends upon him, when the king is negligent, his subjects soon perish. The king is the upholder of the religious principles and thus curbs the forces of the evil. Those who follow religious principles experience happiness in this life and the next. Thus the king receives great merit for sustaining dharma. O Lord, you are the model of the religious king. With my head placed at your lotus feet, I seek your mercy. Do not become angry at what I have to say." Ram assured the dog, saying, "Go on, speak without fear." Thus encouraged, the dog continued, "A mendicant Brahman named Sarvatha Siddh has injured my head, although there was no fault on my part." Immediately Ram had his men summon Sarvatha Siddha. Soon thereafter, when the Brahmana came before him, the Ram inquired, "Why did you strike this dog? What was his fault?" "Anger is deadly enemy. It is like sharp sword that slashes away all of one's virtue. Anger nullifies one's long accumulated merit of austerity. Therefore, the wise rid themselves of anger by neglecting it in thought, speech, and actions. O Brahman, one's true character cannot remain hidden no matter how hard one tries to conceal it. Misdeeds will always betray those who have not conquered the forces of lust, anger, and greed. The Brahman replied, I was wandering about begging for alms when I came upon this dog squatting in the middle of the road, blocking my path. I told him, make way, but he got up and so slowly that I struck him over the head with my staff. I was famished and my anger was easily aroused. O king, I admit my guilt. You should punish me as you see fit, just to save me from falling down into the hellish condition of life. Ram turned to his ministers and inquired, what should the punishment be? Justice must be done, for nothing instills more confidence in people's mind than the administration of fair punishment to the wrongdoers. So we can see the Brahman in Ram's Rajya he is also mindful that he should be given the punishment he is due, because he doesn't want to suffer the consequences of his actions in the next life, and he doesn't want to go to the hellish conditions. Bhrigu, Vashisht, and Kashyap and other knowers of religious principles replied, a Brahman is never to be punished. This is the unanimous opinion of those conversant with the religious principles. Still, O Ram, you are ultimate judge, for you are the Lord of the entire universe. You are the Lord Vishnu himself. Thus, whatever is spoken by you is eternal religion. The dog interrupted, saying, O king, you have asked, what can I do for you? If you truly wish to please me, then kindly appoint this Brahman to be the head of the Kalanjara monastery. Ram fulfilled the dog's request, and thus the delighted Brahman Sarvat Siddh became honored as a spiritual leader and was placed atop a magnificently decorated elephant. The ministers, however, became greatly upset, protesting, O king, this cannot be considered a punishment. Rather than putting the Brahman to shame, you have afforded him with an exalted position. Ram replied, you do not understand the intricacies of karma, but the dog does. Prompted by Ram, the dog explained, in my last life I was the head of the Kalanjara monastery. I duly worshipped the demigods and the Brahmins. I performed my sacred duties carefully and properly, maintained the servants and maid servants. Still, regardless of so much care, trying to leave nothing undone, I took my next birth as a dog due to some unknown fault. Now just consider this Brahman who cannot even control his anger. He is certainly unfit to be a spiritual leader, for his audacity in accepting such a position will now degrade 7 generations of his family. How can a man who is unable to control his temper be put in charge of brahmanas, cows, and the deity worship? Anyone who steals from the brahmanas, demigods, women, or children is doomed, as is one who takes back a gift that was freely given. Indeed, even the very thought of stealing from the demigods and brahmanas will send a man to the lowest of hells. Sorry, my screen just disappeared. So I'll just put the Bhagavad Gita screen for now. Okay, so I've lost where I was. Okay, so I'll just carry on from wherever saying this, the dog suddenly disappeared while Ram and the others sat with wide open eyes. Although previously born in a very high family, that living being had somehow been forced to accept the body of a dog. Had been forced to accept the body of a dog. So I think something like that is happening to me as well. You can say that things are not going as they go smoothly this morning. So apologies for this. Although previously born in a very high family, that living being had somehow been forced to accept the body of a dog. After leaving the royal court at Ayodhya, the dog gave up his life by abstaining from food and water with the hope of attaining a higher birth. One day, while Ram was seated upon the royal throne, Sumantra informed him that some rishis, headed by চ্যবন, had come to see him. The rishis were then escorted in, bearing gifts of fruit and water collected from the holy places. So this is what the sages or the rishis used to bring for the kings: waters from the holy places and the fruits. After worshipping rishis, then Lord Ram inquired as to the purpose of their visit, assuring them he was prepared to execute their command. চ্যবন Muni replied, "My dear Lord Ram, in the Satyayug there was a most pious Daitya named Madhu, the son of Lok. Being very pleased with Madhu, Lord Shiva awarded him an invincible lance. Madhu then requested that all his descendants might also possess his lance, but Rudra explained that this was not possible. However, Lord Shiva at last agreed that the lance could be transferred to Madhu's son. Thus, at the time of his death, the Daitya handed over the weapon to his son, Lavanasur. O Ram, this offspring of Madhu is now residing at Madhuvan because he has become very formidable. He is greatly oppressing the rishis. My dear Lord, you have already destroyed Ravan and his followers. We now beg you to please save us from the hands of Lavanasur." Ram replied, "My dear rishis, please give up all anxiety. I shall certainly kill this Rakshas." Turning to his brothers, Ram inquired, "Shall I kill this demon myself, or shall I allot the task to Bharat or Shatrugna?" Bharat then expressed his eagerness to slay the demon. However, Shatrugna pleaded, "My dear Ram, during your exile, Bharat had to suffer so greatly, therefore please grant me permission to destroy Lavanasur." Ram replied, "O Shatrugna, let it be so. I shall crown you at once as king of Madhuvan." Hearing this, Shatrugna felt most ashamed and protested, "O Lord, it is not proper to install a younger brother as the king in the presence of his elder brother. However, your words cannot go in vain, and I must carry out your order." Now realize it was wrong to protest Bharat's request. It is unrighteous for a younger brother to oppose his elder brother's wishes. I must have been prompted to do so by my evil stars. Ram was pleased to hear Shatrugna speak this way. He then asked Lakshman and Bharat to arrange for their brother's coronation at once. Thereafter, Shatrugna was crowned as the king of Madhuvan. He shone like a radiant sun. The rishis, headed by চ্যবন, were fully assured by this sight. Ram then said, "My dear Shatrugna, it is Lavanasur's habit to keep his lance inside his house when he goes out to collect food. It is only when he is challenged to fight that he takes up his invincible weapon. Therefore, you must confront the demon when he is outside. When you do this, block his entrance so he may not go into his house. Take 4,000 horse soldiers, 2,000 chariot warriors, and 1,000 infantry with you. Let merchants also accompany you along with their wares, and bring actors and dancers. Likewise, take 1,000,000 gold coins to pay the soldiers' salaries. Proceed in a way that will disguise your motive, for only by intercepting him unaware and unarmed will you be able to emerge victorious." Shatrugna first dispatched his army, and then 1 month later he set out. After passing 2 nights on the way, Shatrugna reached the ashram of Valmiki. During the 3rd day, Shatrugna explained to Valmiki how he had been dispatched on a mission by the order of Lord Ram, and the rishi extended his hospitality to him. That night, Shatrugna remained at Valmiki's ashram. Sita gave birth to twin sons at midnight. Receiving the news from his disciples, Valmiki performed the birth rituals with kusha grass to ward off ghosts and the Rakshasas. Valmiki then directed some elderly people to rub the body of the firstborn child with the ends of kusha grass, and younger twin with the lower end of the kusha grass. Thus the elder boy became known as Kush and the younger boy as Love, which means the lower end. Shatrughna overheard the news and was happy to know that twin boys were born to Ram and Sita. In the morning, Shatrughna set out, and after journeying for 7 days, he arrived at the ashram of চ্যবন Muni on the banks of Yamuna river. That evening, as they were sitting at ease, Shatrughna inquired from চ্যবন Muni about the prowess of Lavanasur. The rishi replied, "O prince, there was formerly a very powerful king in the dynasty of Ikshvaku named Mandhata. This king was so ambitious that he made preparations for conquering the entire 3 worlds. As a consequence, even the demigods became afraid. Indra then approached Mandhata and suggested, 'O king, you should first subjugate the entire earth before thinking of conquering heaven.' With great surprise, Mandhata inquired, 'O Indra, where is that person on earth who has not come under my subjugation?' In reply, the king of heaven named Lavanasur, the son of Madhu, who resided in Madhuvan. Hearing this, Mandhata angrily set out with his army. First the king sent forth his envoy, but when the envoy arrived at Madhuvan, Lavanasur ate him up. In great rage, King Mandhata challenged Lavanasur, who thus came out of his city, wielding his terrible lance. In an instant, that invisible weapon destroyed King Mandhata, then returned to the hands of its owner. Therefore, my dear Shatrughna, you must be sure to challenge this demon when he is away from home searching for food." The next morning, Lavanasur went to the forest to hunt for animals. In his absence, Shatrughna crossed the river Yamuna and then besieged the city of Madhuvan. At noon, when Lavanasur returned home bearing heaps of dead animals, he saw Shatrughna standing at the city gates. Lavanasur simply laughed and with derision and said, "O fool, regardless of your audacity, all your weapons shall be of no avail. Indeed, it is my great fortune that you have arrived at my mealtime." Shatrughna challenged, "I am the younger brother of Lord Ram, Bharat, and my name is Shatrughna. I have come here to slay you as a just reward for your wicked deeds." Lavanasur again laughed heartily, saying, "Even though Ram killed Ravan, the brother of my aunt Shurpanakha, I merely excused him out of contempt, for I did not consider him worthy of my challenge." A fierce duel ensued between the 2 warriors. Then Lavanasur suddenly struck Shatrughna over the head with a large tree, causing him to fall unconscious on the ground. Thinking his adversary to be slain, Lavanasur picked up his animal carcasses and entered the city. However, within a moment, Shatrughna came to his senses. Standing up, he fixed a supremely powerful arrow upon his bowstring. Indeed, even the demigods were struck with the fear upon seeing the terrible arrow, and they quickly sought the shelter of Lord Brahma. The grandsire explained to them, "My dear celestials, with this arrow, Lord Vishnu formerly killed Madhu and Katab, the demons. Ram has given this arrow to Shatrughna, knowing well that it would be put to use at this time. You should all go witness with your eyes the death of this great demon." Shatrughna then released that wonderful arrow, and after soaring magnificently through the air, it pierced Lavanasur's heart, making him fall to the ground dead. The victorious Shatrughna shone like the sun, and the demigods praised him for his wonderful achievement. Thereafter, Shatrughna settled at Madhuvan. Residing there with his army and followers, he built a great city there called Madhupuri, which soon became highly prosperous. It was only after 12 years that Shatrughna at last decided to return to Ayodhya. When Shatrughna came to the ashram of Valmiki, he was very respectfully received by the rishi and offered ample hospitality. While congratulating Shatrughna for killing the terrible demon Lavanasur, Valmiki smelled his head repeatedly with great affection. After taking his meal, Shatrughna sat down to listen as Love and Kush recited Valmiki's composition of Ramayana to the accompaniment of music. The poetic expressions were so enrapturing and the descriptions of Lord Ram's transcendental pastimes so vivid that tears soon came to Shatrughna's eyes. Even the soldiers became entranced while hearing the history, for they appeared to be reenacted before their eyes in the ashram of Valmiki. One listener exclaimed, "How wonderful this reenactment is! It appears as though we are dreaming. My dear Shatrugna, please ask Valmiki who has composed this wonderful song." Shatrugna replied, "My dear soldiers, we should not question the Rishi about this because many wonderful occurrences take place in his ashram. We should not be so astonished or express our curiosity unnecessarily." That night, while resting, Shatrugna could think of nothing other than the sweet lyrics describing the pastimes of his worshipable brother, Lord Ram. The next morning, Shatrugna departed and soon arrived at Ayodhya. Upon entering the royal palace, Shatrugna saw Ram like a second Indra surrounded by his ministers bowing before his elder brother. He said, "My dear Ram, I have carried out your command and killed the wicked Vallavanasur. Since that time I have been residing at Madhupuri. By mercy it has become extremely prosperous. My dear brother, I am most aggrieved, having lived in separation from you for these past 12 years. Therefore, I beg you to give me permission now to reside in Ayodhya without going anywhere else in the future." Ram feelingly embraced Shatrugna and replied, "My dear brother, you should not speak like this. A heroic Kshatriya must not express such sorrow or feel any inconvenience while living in a distant kingdom. It is the duty of king to rule over his subjects according to religious principles. You have to return to Madhupuri. I hope. Of course, you may visit Ayodhya from time to time to see me, my dear Shatrugna. You are more dear to me than life itself. Therefore, please stay here for 7 days before setting out." With a sorrowful heart, Shatrugna assented, and after spending 7 days in Ayodhya, he left for his own kingdom. So we will continue from here onwards next time. Thank you for joining. Wish you all a very blissful day ahead. Hare Krishna.